I'm Engineer Metu Francis from the Federal Ministry of Power, Renewable Energy Department. Well, most of the things that have been said, like the REA, most of the things, REA is an agency under the Ministry of Power, so we are doing a lot, many grids. We are also doing solar and public buildings. Like we recently did a solar power and public building in head of civil service. We did 2 megawatt in collaboration with REA, 2.5 megawatt and 600 kilowatt in Nigerian Defense Academy, and we also did solar 500 kilowatt in Yobe State, Damatu Teaching Hospital, Yobe State. And currently, I think we are looking at public health centers where we can also deploy grid and solar home systems to that. So we are actually also encouraging buildings like energy efficiency. In fact, we have a policy on renewable energy and energy efficiency that which we approved in 2015. It was approved by our then President Jonathan. And so we encourage we make policy, although recently people are aware that the registry have been decentralized to subnationals and the state. So the state have been due to the powers state and subnational to generate and provide electricity to their own. So basically now we are most interested in policy making and implementation to encourage our stakeholders agency into providing renewable energy and to rural areas and everywhere to the farm. So I think for now this is the little advice. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sorry, we are putting you guys on the spot. We didn't tell you we were going to call you up before we called you. But it seems there's a lot going on with renewable energy, which is very exciting and very interesting. I'm not asking you to answer me now, but I'm asking this as a question for all of us to take home, because I know that for a while now we've been talking about feed-in tariffs in Nigeria, and it ought to actually exist. Right now, my solar home system is sitting there, it's generating power, and nobody is using it. So I'm losing potential money, and we say we don't have enough generating capacity in Nigeria. How do I earn money from that solar home system that from morning till around 5 o'clock, nobody is really using? Just a thought. Thank you. I think we need to move on very quickly for time. We will invite more stakeholders to come up, but we want to now discuss on the action plan and get your insights on it. So I'll just be throwing a few questions out there, and please feel free to answer. There are no wrong answers, and we're all learning, and we're at different levels of experience and knowledge, and it's also possible you may simply want to ask a question. So please feel free to do that. First off, let me just throw this out there. I know we've talked tangentially around this, especially when the subnationals came and spoke. We heard from Abuja, we heard from Plateau State, but I just wanted to throw this out there to start us talking. So what do people in this region, in this North Central region, or maybe you want to look at it from a broader Nigerian perspective, what do we struggle most with? What is the biggest challenge when it comes to buildings or cities or housing? What is the core challenge around decarbonization and resilience from your perspective? We want to remember we are trying to take a piece of paper, the action plan, and situate it in reality. Now that reality has to link to or connect to or be based on the actual reality of the people. What are the challenges? Because it could be we just sat down in a room somewhere and drew up a piece of paper. Possible. So we want to see what are the actual challenges, and then how do we see, or how are they connected to this action plan we've been talking about. So the floor is open. Now, what are the challenges we are facing? Is it heat? I know for some of us it's heat. Is it energy costs? Ministry of Power, and anyway, you say it's been decentralized, so it's not your fault anymore, you know? What about high housing costs or rent? Flooding, we've heard about flooding, drainage issues. Is it poor building quality? Enforcement of codes? Mr. Codes is here. Is it, where is Madam Sakulet? Is it long commutes, hour-long commutes to work, transportation problems because of urban sprawl? You know, what are the key challenges we're facing? So I just want to hear a few thoughts about that if nobody is too shy. Yes, sir. Please introduce yourself and let us know.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Murtala Moru from Federal Ministry of Environment. I believe one of the topmost challenges that homes faced, especially the poor, face is source of cooking fuel. There was a program recently organized by the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, and when they were looking at the poverty index, that came top, surprisingly for me. But a lot of people neglect that, and it is directly connected to what we are discussing, because this source of cooking that they use contributes immensely to these GHG emissions and pollutes the environment and deny us the clean air that we all imagine. A woman packing a baby using firewood and sometimes even using plastic materials to make fire. You can imagine how dangerous that could be to that child. Particularly if you are using plastic material, it generates what we call POP, persistent organic pollutants. These have been identified as one of the, what do they call it? Is it hormonal? It affects the hormones of the body of women and also affects the brain of the child, the developing child, even an unborn child in the. So I see that as a challenge, and that links also to waste management. Effective waste management. Just like my boss on the panel, Dr. Amadou Jibril, was talking about effective management of waste and all that. I believe that's something that should be looked into. Yes, thank you.
Thank you for that, sir. So we have another hand up. So what is the key challenge, the problem of...
Thank you. My name is Architect Stephen Adamu. I'm representing Nigerian Institute of Architects, Abuja chapter. I want to look at this from a different dimension, and I want to take a component of what makes sustainability. You can't talk about sustainability without talking about the building materials in this light. And I want to make a quote from what the representative of the executive secretary of FCDA said. He said insufficient data to know the impact of usage of building materials. NAFDAC, they declare war on adulterated drugs. But I discovered that in the building construction industry, there are a lot of adulterated materials. And these materials contain so much laboratory carcinogens that when you inhale them, can cause cancer over time. But you see, the building industry is very porous. Everybody goes into the building market, buys materials without knowing the effect of those materials. So I said that to say this, that government aggressive engagement, for instance now, customs, which I believe largely their mandate is not just raising finances, because it has been reduced to raising finances, is for them to check the kind of building materials that are brought into the country. Now, if there are specifications that have been given to them, now it will reduce largely this kind of adulterated building materials that are brought into the nation. So the key players in the industry will be able to, when they specify and then we get approval from places like development control, they will insist on checking some of these things. Post-construction evaluation is not done. You know, people just move into a building, you see all manner of paints being used. When you enter the building, inhaling it alone, it's something else. So all these things, government has to be very aggressive in doing this. This is how we can sustain all this. So quickly, please pardon me because I need to just run from here. I was looking at something recently, and I was asking myself, because I was trying to do a research, what is the vision and strategy for construction for Nigeria? I could not find any, because in 2013, when the UK government now issued the UK vision for and strategy for construction, they were able to set a plan. The closest we have in Nigeria is the National Integrated Infrastructure Master Plan, which I believe is not really focused on the building construction industry. So for me, I believe that if we engage the government aggressively so that these policies that we're working on can be turned into law, I think we will have a headway. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody. Architect Ncheta Benson Ononobono, Director Housing, Satellite Towns Development Department. Well, in view of this issue of the climate change, yeah, it's a major challenge to the world, but I will tie my contribution to the satellite towns. You see, this issue of climate change we're all aware, especially when it comes to urbanization, this excess heat and the emissions, carbon emissions. For the satellite towns, we attempted a few things, and that is one, the greening of the environment. In such a way that if you go through the satellite town, you see that most of our streets, in between the streets, we're already planting trees. And we know that these trees will absorb the carbon dioxide and create a refreshing environment. You know, we want a situation where somebody can walk all the way from Beggar Junction to Life Camp, walking, that way you're making yourself healthy. But the issue now is the heat. Like in the afternoon, it's difficult junction to Life Camp. How do we handle it? RFI came up tree planting, and that is what we're also doing. If we have enough tree cover where you walk along the walkways covered or under the cover of a tree, that way you can be perfectly, the minister also did a few things, because this climate change affected erosion, farmland, hunger, difficulty, especially in food production. So the minister is proposing to tie Kwali Area Council for farming and such related things with all the attendant laws and regulations are tied to it. However, I think for development control, we may need to add something. And that is here, especially in this city, because of the urbanization. we may need to insist that for every approval, that there be a number of trees planted in the compound. That way, it can check the excess heat that comes as a result of the heat island that is projected during construction. Thank you.
Thank you. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Onyebuchi Asoba. I'm representing Abuja Environmental Protection Board, APB. So while I appreciate everyone's insight so far, it appears nobody has touched the elephant in the room, power. The energy is the most important issue for every building. In fact, as we are speaking now, I won't be surprised if this structure is running on generator. And in Abuja Environmental Protection Board, the Pollution Monitoring and Quality Control Department has had to attend to issues of generator emission, pollution every now and then. Almost all of us run generator at home. So it's a very important issue when you are talking about any building in Nigeria. We'll have to. Apologies to the Ministry of Power. You said you've divested. Well, it's still the box still stops on your table because you are the minister. There's that issue. In fact, people in the rural areas too, they will always seek for an alternative to power supply. But when you have power supply to everybody that you can easily access power from the main grid, then that issue of pollution from alternative power would go down. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, another response. Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Zainab Umara. I'm from Nigeria. Just to buttress his point, we also have, when you go to the desk officers on air pollution, you will see several complaints on generator fumes and location and noise, and it's a menace. But the issue about when you say you want to decarbonize a system, people have to have accessibility. It's an issue because if you want me to use solar in my business or in my home, and you want me to not use generator as an alternative, because we can all agree that we do not have stable power. It's almost, even the people who are on band A do not have power. I am on band A, and when we see small cloud like this, then the power is off. So accessibility, these things need to be affordable. How many people in this room can afford solar power panels or batteries? It's not accessible, and I don't think the government is doing anything to make these things accessible to people. There needs to be like a rebate system, a loan scheme, something that would encourage people. I, as a government worker, can go walk into a business or whoever sells solar panels, like they do outside the country. Nobody goes outrightly to pay 10 million naira for any kind of installation. You pay installmentally. That way, I know that in 5 years, I would have gotten a 10 kVA or something in my house, and I'm not breaking the bank or selling off my assets just to afford power. Businesses suffer the same thing. That's why everything is so high, people can't afford. Then like the women in the rural areas that do not have access to like LPG, they need to be trained on how to use like briquettes, how to make briquettes from coconut husks and other waste materials, rather than having to cut down trees or burn trees, clean cook stoves, all these, but it has to be accessible to them. Most of them have never heard of this. There are so many little pilot projects and all that going on, but a lot of people don't have access. Now, in Nigeria, we have a construction sector regulation. And this is, it's mostly on environmental protection, so that, sustainable building practices. You have to have an EIS. Of course, having carried an EIA, you have to show that whatever you're doing is sustainable. But I mean, our estate managers, I don't think they adhere to all these building codes and all these policies. So I think we need to understand that when we are talking about construction, there's so much pollution that comes from construction, from the waste, from the emissions, from the clearing of bushes. In fact, in some of our regulations, when you cut a tree down, you're supposed to build 10 or 20 more. But I don't see estates doing that. They clear a whole lot of land and then they don't even rebuild the trees, even if it's to beautify the estates. It's so sunny. And these things are all issues that we need to look at. So please, in our buildings, we have, of course, energy efficiency. When we have refrigerants from the ACs and the ventilation systems we use, the cooling systems we use, we need ozone-friendly refrigerants. But most of these refrigerants are expensive. They also need to be accessible. So that it's just a mess, really. There's so many issues that we need to look at. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam, for those insights, right on point. I need to quickly share that there are actually some companies that are trialing what you're talking about, which is, we call it pay small in Nigeria, right? Yes, for solar home systems. I don't know whether any of them are operating in Abuja yet, but I know that in Lagos, there are some trials out there. And the issue now is how do we scale it up and make it more. The company will come and install the system for you, and you pay over time. And the payment for some of them is not even arbitrary, it's tied to your savings or your energy bills. So you are seeing that maybe you are paying 300,000 a month, you are now saving 50,000 from that, and that is what you take and pay to them. So they do an audit of your building. They tell you this is the system you need, this is what it can deliver in terms of savings, and convert that into a kind of monetary value, and over time you pay. And for some, there is even a guarantee. If it falls short, then there is a penalty for them also. So but we need to look for how to scale that up. One thing I heard somebody talk about waste. Honestly, the one that bothers me most is waste, because getting rid of my plastic waste is stress. So satellite town, development control, homework for you. Estates should mandatorily have to provide central recycling hubs in the estate. Yes, as it is now, to get rid of my plastic waste, I have to put it in my car and lug it all the way over to the city. And where I used to put it, dispose of it before, suddenly the container disappeared. So I had to start running around looking for another one, simply because I didn't want to be the bad guy and say, oh, let me just dump my plastic in the bin. So we have one more comment on this before, many more. How about? Engineer Sam is my friend. I have to give him an opportunity. Don't worry, Basha. You have skipped Engineer Sam. Okay, you will come next. Don't worry.
I'm really sorry. You see, when you say, evacuating your plastic waste is a problem, a huge problem. I tend to wonder why it is a problem, because there's a huge market for plastic in Nigeria. Very huge market. In fact, I also keep plastic waste. Go to my house, I have a corner, I built it up, and I have plastic waste. However, it depends on the category of plastic waste. The pure water sachet that is a menace, I tell you, they buy it. They buy it. I can assure you now that if you have 20 trucks of the pure water sachet, I can link you up with somebody that can take it. So plastic waste is not really a waste. I mean, it's not really the issue. I think probably the direction you are going to is to have maybe a collection hub. And that is what we should try as much as possible to encourage in all our estates, where we should have a collection hub where you take your plastic, you get some kind of incentive for that. Then, you know, when you have incentive for it, or if you have a collection hub where you take it is weighed and you can sell. People come to take. They are off-takers. As I speak to you, in Nigeria, some people are trying to see how they can even bring. There are a lot of values coming from these plastics. A lot of values, please.
Thank you, sir. No, I get that. I agree with you. My challenge and what I didn't want was somebody burning carbon emissions to come to my house to pick up my plastic when I know I go into the city every week. So that was the calculation I was making. I know if I call them to come, they will come. So, Engineer Sam.
Sorry, my name is Engineer Sam. I work with Jais Bank. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer. So Jais Bank, we have a product that's called Energize that does something similar in which for both residential and commercial projects that where we can finance them over 3-year, 5-year periods. And then not only plug myself, there are other ones that, just like what the president had spoken, like Sea Solar, that they give out, but their own is more for commercial projects, large-scale projects, but at least they would now be able to give you PPP services. So that is as you virtually, you just be paying for the power that you're getting, and most times the rates are cheaper than what you get through Band A or even some of the other rates. So I think what we need to do is that we need to leverage on some of these projects and opportunities, because sometimes those opportunities are there, but because we're not aware of them and we don't leverage them, they don't even take off the way they need to take off. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ministry of Power, again.
No, in addition to what he has said, actually there is a lot of opportunities, and we are deployed, just as I said earlier, we have deployed a lot of mini-grid solar home systems to rural areas and so many households and so many communities, even through the rural education agencies and even the one the Ministry of Power is doing. But the major challenges we have with some of these rural communities and villages is the ability to pay. Once it comes to payment, it becomes an issue, and once you are not paying, you are not encouraging the developer to scale up and do more of the power. And even in the Band A, just as my colleague earlier said power is the issues. The major issues we have in the power system is inability of the consumers to pay. If you, even within the metropolis of Abuja, before you count up to 10-15 houses, I bet you see a lot of customers bypassing. And these are the challenges the AEDC or the distribution companies are having, because the GENCOs are willing to supply these powers through the transmission company to the DISCOs. But the inability of these distribution companies to recoup back their money, like as a businessman, what you just be after, we have a lot of investors who are willing to invest, but the challenges they have is how to recoup back their money. And we find that most of these customers, just as they said, they find it difficult to pay. They said the cost is too high, even when you provide the electricity to them. So I bet you today, if you have a reliable customer who is willing to pay at the tariff, I'm telling you honestly, he has 247 power supply. I can bet you in Kenya land, we are living faith worldwide that 247, they are having power supply. They have never having this thing because they are paying. So the challenge, the major challenge is the customers to pay, not the availability of electricity. Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Sorry, sir. Sorry, sir. We need to move on. You get the opportunity to talk because maybe it's related. What you want to say is related. I wanted to throw the question back out there, the last one. We have a problem. How do we tackle it? because it's not just about identifying the problems like the lack of greenery and the need for tree coverage along the highway so people can feel comfortable walking in the heat. Things like generator emissions. People don't often know that those emissions is not just about your neighbor. You too, you're breathing them in. So please keep pumping emissions to your neighbor. In fact, the emissions load in your immediate home is even probably worse than the one your neighbor is breathing in, unless you're one of those bad neighbors that deliberately turns your exhaust away. So how do we solve the problem? My problem with waste. What are the solutions? I want us to look at it within the context. Can you put the action plan, the strategic objectives there? What we're trying to talk about now is, we want to answer two questions. Which do we think is kind of a low-hanging fruit or a priority or something that we can quickly take up to address the issues we've talked about surrounding waste, surrounding energy, surrounding crookish people diverting power, surrounding financing for low carbon or solar home systems. We have 8 strategic objectives. So we just want to talk about these for a bit. Strengthen regulatory and policy alignment, pilot and scale demonstration projects, build capacity across the value chain, accelerate climate. This is work. Let me see. This thing gave me a lot of wahala to memorize, but now I know it off heart. Let me share how I did it. I had to come up with a mnemonic, okay, to help me remember. So let me do a little bit of classroom. Cities must start doing practical climate equity steps. Cities must start doing practical climate equity steps. So C is codes and policy alignment. M, of course, is money. S is skills and capacity building. D is data. P is pilot projects. C, again, is collaboration and partnerships across sectors. E is equity, health, and nature. And S is states, subnational engagement. So you don't need to cram this long story here. Cities must start doing practical climate equity steps. So which of these do we think is a low-hanging fruit? And which one do we think, those who have identified, okay, maybe we have spoken before, I shouldn't allow you opportunity to speak, but does anybody have a perspective? Which is your favorite strategic objective? And can you tell us why and how you think it can contribute to addressing some of these challenges we're facing? You could even pick 2. Sometimes it's hard to choose a favorite one, especially if you have 2 children, Okay. You have to tell one that is a favorite.
Thank you very much. Chaplain Sonny Daniel. The second one, building capacity across the value chain. The truth is that regulation, policy without adequate capacity tend to fail. You would bear with me today that across board, both national, sub-national, we have policies. But the issue and the challenge is implementations of policy. Even the implementers and people that have direct bearing, or the policies have direct bearing with, we are confronted with this challenge. And why? Oftentimes, the capacity of even the operators are not well built. They might not even know how to operate it. And even the beneficiaries might not even know the benefits of these policies to them. So we have that cohesive situation. Now today we are talking. The truth is, if the capacity is not built, and if there's no value chain, our policies stands to fail. We need to focus on that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So capacity, very, very important. And it's something that actually came up very strongly over the 12 months that we worked on this action plan. And that's why it's one of the strategic objectives. We need to build capacity. You know, I sometimes wonder if you take a high-tech designed project and take it to a local building regulator and say, please approve my plan. I don't know whether he will have the capacity to interrogate your designs properly and ask you the questions that need to be asked to find out whether it is actually up to code, or maybe they just say, oh, this looks, let me then not know that I don't understand, though. I approve it. So let me hand over to my brother from Kaduna.
Hello and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Town Planner Lawal Ishu from Kaduna State Ministry of Housing and Urban Development. Well, from my own perspective, looking at the 8 objectives, the number 1 objective, which is the strengthening regulatory and policy alignment, to me is key. And these are my reasons. Number 1, if we try to look at the 3 objectives, we see that some are policy objectives, some are programs, some are even activities. And for you to have a program or a policy, there has to be a very well crafted policy. So when we have a very good policy and regulatory framework, so the implementation issue is going to be a simple thing. For every policy, there is supposed to be the implementation framework, where looking at that implementation framework, then we see how some of the objectives will come in. For example, building capacity. When you have a policy, from it that you bring out the program for building capacity. Now that you have the policy at the top, then a program that which will emanate from the policy, that's building capacity as one of the programs. Then you look at those relevant actors or key stakeholders for implementing the policy to give them a very good capacity building, be it from the public sector, the private sector, and even the general public. Likewise, for example, strengthening data, MRV, and digital infrastructure. This one can as well be a project emanating from a particular program or from the, which come down from the policy. So to me, having a well-strengthened regulatory and policy alignment, then is very key. Looking at what we are doing now, for example, is something for the national. Then we have the subnational, the state and the local government. They need something to align themselves with. So even if you want to have something from the grassroots, then something at the higher level can come in. Even at the federal level, state level, all have policies. But from there you look at how you dissect such a policy into other relevant activities. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, all right, go ahead.
Okay, I will not take much of your time. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Architect Musa Ilia, and I'm representing Urban Shelter. I head the architecture team at Urban Shelter. In summary, I think all of the actions that have been outlined are excellent points. And like someone mentioned earlier, Nigeria is not short of policies in any aspect of it's the implementation that is always the issue. So I will tell you a little bit of a secret what we do as an organization, Urban Shelter. So whenever we roll out houses and we go about advertising, showing plans, showing all of this, showing 3Ds, animation, all of these things to people, some people will always ask you that, I want to see this building standing. So for me, I think, yes, we can have excellent policies, we can have regulatory authorities that try to enforce these policies, but I think for anything in our own locality, for our people to easily accept things, they want to see them. So I think having a pilot project, and for us, we are very, very excited to try to discuss with GBC and to see how we can do a pilot project that people would actually see these buildings standing and how they function and how. I would give also another example. You know, a few years ago, Cytec did a building with police train, and they reinforced police train and they built houses, very nice houses. Like they have excellent thermal performance. These buildings, our people refuse to buy them because they said they're in Hausa. They say they are Gidan Kwali, so they are made of like cartons. Like because what we know is block, what we know is brick, mortar, and that. So I think we need to, the easiest way for our people to accept things will be actually to see them, see how they perform, see how they function. I was discussing with our guy here during the talking break. I said as an organization, we do a lot of things passively. We don't even go about telling our clients, we've designed this building to be naturally ventilated or naturally lit. No, we don't even waste our time. Because we feel like, if we were to tell you this, you feel like it's going to cost you more to buy it because we know what the upfront cost for any sustainable, strategy would add to the building. So we just do it. We do natural lighting, we do passive ventilation, we do all of those things as normal. So and then when people come into this house, they'll be like, wow, this feels different or this feels nice. At the other end, we also need to satisfy some clients that are not so buoyant to own properties so we would also build something that everyone can afford and they can live just their normal life. Maybe just one window, maybe 2 windows of 600. Because we need to be as realistic as possible considering our economic situation as a country. But for me, I would think the low-hanging fruit here would be pilot projects that would actually showcase what Green Building Council is trying to achieve with all of these things that we're discussing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that. Proofs of concept, very important. Yes, sir. Madam, you've jumped the queue. Okay, go ahead, ladies first.
Okay, yeah, just to respond to him, sometimes the reason why people want to see buildings before they can invest is because of trust issues, not necessarily because they are not sure whether this will work or not. We've had prototypes that do not look like the real building. So there's a trust issue. Then, sorry sir, on the NDC matter, I don't know how to change my meter. It's your staff that will come to our houses and tell you, I can tweak this thing for you. They will not notice. They will do it for you. 2 days later, they come back, a different set comes, and they say, you have tampered with your meter, and so I'm penalizing you. So these things, people need to understand that if I'm working for an organization, this organization pays me, I need to be responsible. But they don't. So that's one of the issues. And yesterday, I was at a meeting yesterday and we had persons with disability present at the meeting. Because I saw, please can you, just that slide that says, please, where is the slide? Anyway, when we are building, we need to build in such a way that it serves everybody, right? We had a meeting, it was upstairs, just 1 floor up, and then some of the participants were persons with disability. But believe it or not, they came, but they were downstairs attending the meeting online while they were physically there because there was no, is it a tram? Or what do you call it?
Ramp.
A ramp, right? Sorry. There was no ramp for them to climb on. And this happens in almost every estate. I have lived in an estate. My house was a 4-bedroom apartment with only 6 windows. The whole apartment has just 6 windows. I have moved out of the estate. And I'm sorry, it is bricks and hammers. They do not have an exit door. I'm sorry, the staircase, the staircase at the back of the kitchen so that in case of emergency, you can't go out front, you go out the back. they do not have it. I don't know who approves those things. And these are big names in construction sector. They do not have, the whole estate does not have any form of emergency exit. So if anything happens, all my stay in that house, I was really hoping that no fire accident happens, because I would have to jump from the 4th floor. So, you know, we need to, yes, this embed equity, health and nature in buildings. Yeah, so there's natural ventilations that do not have to cost so much when you're building. So please, and then public-private, I think collaboration within our agencies. Even from our responses here, we can tell that we don't know what other organizations are doing. I am coming from Nigeria. We have an air pollution regulation, air quality regulation. We have construction sector regulation. We have mining regulations. And all these are robust regulations. They may not be necessarily focused on one particular thing, but they are all almost about protecting the environment. From Federal Ministry of Environment is saying they are trying to develop a regulation on air quality. Sir, sorry, am I correct? Is it a regulation?
A policy.
Okay. So, but I mean, there are people that don't even understand that we have these regulations, and I don't know what another agency is doing. So we need collaboration. When we go to seal, I'm sorry, with the guy from APP, when we go for our enforcement and we seal a particular business or company for non-compliance, the next day APB comes and tells our seals, and then, you know, there's this tussle. So we need to sit and collaborate. We are working for one government. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam. So I think, no, my brother at the back has been putting his hand up since, and I've been jumping over him. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm by name Engineer Ahmed A.S.Y. Kutigi, the Regional Officer, North Central Geopolitical Zone of Korea. Now, if you look at this projection, without regulation, none of it will stand. Regulations are key because they guide in all you do. The major issue we are having here is, let me categorize it as 4 G's: skill gap, proficiency gap, which one again do I have? Knowledge gap. I've forgotten the other one. So if we're able to get this in order, we in this hall are okay to make this nation rise again. There's nothing you can do on what we are discussing today that is outside the stakeholders within this hall. But working in silos is the major issue. And where do we get it wrong? We do get it wrong when we are conceptualizing our regulatory framework. Me as an engineer who is in charge of engineering education, licensing and practice, and the madam in the Nestra, am I correct? Who happen to use these engineers, when madam already have engineers, she will dump me as scoring. Likewise, the man in power already know that he's already providing power. He has nothing to do with certification and regulation outside the Ministry of Power. The man providing finance already knew once he has 2-3 economists, they'll just tell him, our Oga, not be interested, we will sell it and buy and sell again. He is comfortable. The man in Nibri, we already have our local technology to cater for all these challenges as far as decarbonization is concerned. We say, no, Nibri is in Nigeria, let us go to China and Japan. So until all this is okay, but working in silos, as far as we are not going to come out and deliberately collaborate, I use the word deliberately collaborate, we will never get it right. So I want us to have it today that collaboration is key. But it's painful Why? Is because me as a regulator would not like him, who is also a researcher, to know what I'm doing. And he's just wanting money. So you can see how we are limited. Even though I don't think we need anything here. I license the engineers that development control we use. I license the engineers you use. I control their academic performance and also the practice. But they work for you. You have the regulations. But at my own end, there are engineering regulations that must be obliged to. You cannot enforce, but I can prosecute. So when we collaborate, I think we are good to go. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that. Collaboration has come out several times, and I think this is the beginning of that here. We've made attempts in the past in Nigeria. We're not very good at collaborating. We are very territorial, and we tend to want to protect our turf. This is a human thing, really. Putting yourself in somebody else's shoes is very difficult to do. Yeah, it's very difficult to do, but we need to learn to do that. We need to learn to listen. We need to learn to respect other people's points of view, even when we think they are wrong. We need to, there is value even in a wrong answer, because a wrong answer can point you in the right direction. You know, was it Edison or so said something, I'm paraphrasing, about he did, when he was inventing the light bulb, of course, he did, is it 1,000 or 10,000 different times? And he said something that he hasn't failed 10,000 times, but he has found, is it 10,000 ways to make it right or something like that? I'll find the correct quote. So mistakes point us in the right direction. So learn to listen even when the person seems to be talking rubbish. In that rubbish, there are nuggets of wisdom. Thank you for giving me for preaching. Yes, sir.
I think the nail is straight in the head. He said something, and that was just going to be my point. Deliberate and conscious collaboration. Deliberate. Because if we have to do it, you know, looking at our status quo, our, we say your mandate, you discover that you hold back. We need a conscious and a deliberate collaboration, multi-sectoral collaboration. Now, if we have a deep public and private multi-sectoral collaboration, you know, a deliberate one, I think it will address all the other objectives, because all the objectives are embedded in these public-private multi-sectoral collaborations. If you collaborate, you will strengthen regulations, you will align with regulations and policies. If you collaborate, you will build capacity. If you collaborate, there will be pilot skills and demonstration projects that will come up. So I think the bedrock here is deliberate collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Madam, we need to move on. We're seriously behind schedule. I just wanted to throw this out there. We've said a lot about the need for collaboration and the need to build equity, health, and nature, very important, into our built environment, and regulations and policies being the foundation of everything we do. We talked about the need for pilots and demonstration projects as proofs of concept, and the need to build capacity and knowledge across the value chain. So because we need to move on, I'll just give two people the chance to respond. Who should, we need to collaborate, yes, but in collaborating, then somebody needs to drive it. So who should take the lead? I'm talking from a sectoral perspective. I know the natural inclination is to say government, But I want you to check yourself first before you say that. I would say government, if you ask me, who should drive this activity forward? Who should be the principal actor? Who is willing to be the rebel and take a different point of view? Is there anybody bold enough to tell us that industry should lead, or academia, or, sorry, you want to talk again? So who should take the lead? Let's assume that we want to move this action plan forward today. Or another plan, somebody talked about an integrated strategy for buildings in Nigeria. It needs multi-stakeholder collaboration, but there has to be a central driver leading it. Who do we think should take that responsibility? Industry, government, professional bodies, academia, or maybe for me, I would say civil society. Yes, sir.
You see, policies, standards, regulations are formulated by the government. So, government should take the lead in driving the process while you bring other stakeholders into the platform. I think if we do that consciously, if we do that, I think it would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, please. Sorry, I still go by you, but the leadership can be done in both ways. Please, let me share something quickly. In 2022, we realized that we're having issues with regulation of engineering in all its aspects and ramifications as far as Nigeria is concerned. We now came and say, okay, which one are the key sectors of engineering? We have power, we have communication, we have oil and gas, we have mining, we have aerospace. Are you getting it? We have transportation, we have maritime, and also we have biomedical. We now say, okay, we as a council cannot do it alone. What do we want? Collaboration. All these aspects I mentioned now, they are major concepts of engineering. But note that at our own end, we can have this expertise. For us to be able to carry out regulations, Ministry of Power is in the committee. Communications is there. Maritime is there. That is why I say that deliberate collaboration it can be driven by a private sector. You can drive it. The only thing you identify the stakeholders. Come on.